In this week's episode, the most dramatic group chat story of the week that didn't involve the military secrets of the United States, Poland and Ukraine hope to set the stage for success, and what do those semi-final running order slots mean for your favourites? I'm Stephen Perkins, and this is Douze.
Hello London, we are ready for your vote.
It is Monday, 31st of March, and I'm here with another roundup of the Eurovision news from the past 7 days. Some quite serious, and some very, very silly. And if that isn't Eurovision in a nutshell, I don't know what is. So let's take a quick skim through the latest headlines. First of all, with the contest around a month and a half away, all of the acts are putting plans in place for their staging in Basel, and most of them are dropping little hints to get us hyped for what they have in store. The latest teasers have come from Ukraine's Zifablat and Poland's Justyna Szczekowska. Speaking to RFI, Zifablat lead singer Daniel Leshinsky said that they'd engaged a new director for their performance and that the changes in the number are radical. It's completely different now. Not to be outdone, Justyna Szczekowska, whose staging of Gaia in Poland's national final was already pretty amazing, has revealed that she and her team are planning a special effect that has never been done before at Eurovision, saying that at the end of the performance, we are planning to create a 3D effect. At the very least, we will try something different. Poland do have a track record in recent years of trying fairly ambitious things with their performances, but not always successfully, as we saw last year with the staging of Luna's The Tower, which kind of overwhelmed the song. Anyway, this all sounds very encouraging, so we look forward to seeing what Poland and Ukraine, and indeed everyone else, have in store for us come May. In other news, we have officially hit the silly season of Eurovision 2025, thanks to what sounds like a complete non-story over a group chat. In the wake of the US government accidentally adding the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic to a group chat in which they were discussing their plans to organise a strike on Yemen, this one was never going to be the most high-profile group chat story of the week, but it gained a bit of traction with certain corners of the fandom nonetheless. Essentially, the Eurovision Fund website ran a story reporting that a group chat had been set up on Instagram for this year's contestants, but that certain acts had been excluded from it. Inevitably, speculation started about exactly who was being excluded, by whom and why, so Denmark's Sissal, who is entering the contest this year with Hallucination, decided to put an end to the drama by posting a statement on Instagram which said, "I just need to address this. I have never excluded anyone from a group chat. I started a group chat for all Eurovision participants, but I could only add 13. I immediately wrote, please add everyone you can. I tried to add everyone, but it said, can't add, because they didn't follow me and some had private accounts. There are still participants missing and we are trying to get them in. No one is being excluded, and people need to stop believing everything they read and stop creating unnecessary drama. We have a great community, and the only thing I stand for as a person is creating a positive and inclusive space. We're here for the music." So there you have it. No scandal, no exclusion, and, in all honesty, no more dramatic than any other group chat that any of us have ever been a part of. Moving back to more serious business, the big story this week was, of course, the announcement of the running orders for this year's two semi-finals on 13th and 15th of May. The approach that debuted last year, in which the Big Five and the host nation will get to perform non-competitively in the semi-final that their country votes in, will be continuing for 2025, so here's what that setup looks like. Tuesday's semi-final opens with Iceland's Vibe performing Roa, then slot number 2 is Poland's Justyna Szczekowska with Gaia, third will be Klemen for Slovenia with How Much Time Do We Have Left, followed in fourth by Estonia's Tommy Cash with Espresso Macchiato. Then there's a break for our first Big Five preview, Spain's Melody with Essa Diva, followed by Ukraine in position number 5 for Zifablat with Bird of Prey, and then Kai for Sweden on in 6th position with Bara Bastu. Portugal are on 7th with Napa's Deslocado, and 8th is Norway's Kyle Alessandro with Lighter. Position number 9 will be taken by Belgium's Red Sebastian with Strobe Lights, and then we have our second break for Italy's Lucio Corsi with Volevo Essere un Giuro. We return to the competition after that with Azerbaijan's Mama Gama and Run With You on in 10th position, followed by Gabri Ponte for San Marino in 11th with Tutta l'Italia. 12th position goes to Albania's Shkodra Electronica with Zjerm, then 13th is Claude for the Netherlands with C'est la Vie, 14th is Marco Bosniak for Croatia with Poison Cake, then our final break of the night for host nation Switzerland with Zoe Mies Voyage, and then concluding with Theo Evan for Cyprus with Shh. So, initial thoughts on this one before we move on. Iceland seemed to be a good choice to open the contest with a fun, high-energy song, and frankly, if anyone has the vocal heft to survive the curse of performing second, it is Poland's Justyna. Ukraine are in a surprisingly difficult spot, going on early and before overall favourite Sweden, but I can see the logic of Ukraine being a reliably popular country at Eurovision with a lot of public support who can probably survive that. Obviously, the banter option would have been to have Italy running straight into San Marino afterwards, so I am a bit disappointed that Azerbaijan are sat in between, but we can't have everything. The only other thing I'd say is that taking a break for Switzerland to perform when we only have one competitive song left does feel a bit odd, and Cyprus are kind of sat there on their own at the end, but maybe that will help them. I think if it were up to me, I would have put Switzerland one spot earlier, just because I think Netherlands, Switzerland, Croatia, Cyprus would flow better, but we'll see how it plays on the night. Over to Thursday's second semi-final, and we're starting with Australia's Gojo and Milkshake Man, followed by Montenegro's Nina Zizic with Dobrodošli. Ireland are on third with Emi and Like a Party, followed by Latvia's Tautumetas with Burman Laimi on fourth, and Armenia's Parg with Survivor on fifth, and Austria's JJ with Wasted Love on sixth. Then we take our first break for the UK's Remember Monday with What the Hell Just Happened, before Greece's Claudia takes the 7th spot with Astoromata, then Lithuania's Katarsis with Tavo Akis in 8th. Position 9 goes to Malta's Miriana Conte with Serving, then 10th is Georgia's Mariam Shengelia with Freedom, followed by another break for France's Luan with Maman. After her, in position 11 is Denmark's Sissal with Hallucination, then 12th is Adonis for Czechia with Kiss Kiss Goodbye, followed by Luxembourg's Laura Thorne in 13th with La Poupée Monte le Son. In 14th is Israel's Yuval Raphael with New Day Will Rise, then our final break for Germany's Abor and Tina with Bala, followed by our final two performances, Prince with Mila for Serbia in 15th, and then Finland's Erika Wickman closes things with Ich Komme in 16th position. I think most people's takeaway from this one is that it doesn't look too hopeful for Montenegro, which is odd given that they've just returned to the competition after a couple of years' break, and you'd think that setting them up to fail like this doesn't feel like much of a welcome home. I really like Dobrodošli, so I'm hoping it can find a way through, but this is a pretty competitive semi-final, and I do think they've been dealt quite a bad hand here. Austria also have an arguably tough draw there for a favoured song, but being the last competitive performance before the first act break, where we go over to the United Kingdom, might end up working in their favour. Other than that, there are no real surprises here, with a lot of the big favourites being lined up for the final third. It feels like favourable spots for Denmark and Luxembourg that should boost their chances of qualification, and Erika Wickman being the climax of the night feels right and just. That's the news taken care of, so there's just time for a quick check-in with the bookies before we sign off. The top 5 hasn't changed much since our last check-in, it's still the same 5 countries, just in a slightly different order. Sweden are still the favourites to win, and have drifted slightly, but still have very favourable odds of around 2-1. Austria are still in second place, but have also drifted out slightly, with odds of around 9-4. France have moved up into third place, with odds of around 5-1. Israel have moved down to fourth, with odds of around 9-1, and Netherlands are still in fifth place, with odds of around 12-1 to win. So, essentially, France more favoured than last time, everyone else in roughly the same order but with their odds a bit longer. But I do still think we are far enough out that there is still plenty of time for this all to change, especially once the rehearsals begin in Switzerland. That's it from me for this week. Thank you as always for listening. If you enjoyed, please do remember to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice so that you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes, and if you could leave us a glowing review to help us climb up the charts, we would really appreciate that. I will be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, good night Europe, and good morning Australia.